Friends, today is Voyage Day, and I am pleased to present Sonia G by Tesshyu, the Voyage Set Brush Collection. This was highly anticipated when I found out that our Sonia G collaborated with Master Tesshyu Takemori, a master brush maker from one of Japan's most prestigious brush brands. I went crazy. And funny story I have to share, I purchased this set on pre-order as I texted the Beautylish team because I just had to have it. And historically with limited sets, this will not come back in stock, so I was worried. I purchased it, but still messaged Sonia to let her know just in case there was a possibility that Beautylish would send PR, but I doubted it. She was like, cancel the order. I'm like, no, Sonia, I have to buy this set. I want to support you because you have been so kind for all these years in sending PR, because you know how I love Sonia, okay? She insisted that I receive this gift, and I just wanted to thank her and the Beautylish team for being so generous in sending this brush set. One of my most now treasured brushes I will ever own, and have to go into a little behind the scenes about this collaboration. It is extraordinary. To quickly go over the retail details, because if you are interested in purchasing this set, it is available on Beautylish for $250. There are no individuals. You'll have to buy these brushes in a set because it is meant to be presented as such. And once this brush set sells out, that is it. It will not return. Not to put any pressure on you, but just thought I would let you know. But how this collaboration came to be is quite a remarkable story. And yes, I would highly recommend that you read Sonia's blog post about this, because to get all the details about how this project came to be, how Sonia met Master Tesshyu, how she started her journey, and because she was an avid fude collector, and if you don't know, fude is Japanese for brush, she had started her blog back in 2012 in sharing several of her fude purchases with enthusiasts, right? Whether she bought the brushes themselves or she received PR, which was rare at the time, she would always disclose which ones were purchased and which ones were gifted to her. Sonia never held back on the details. If you read her blog, you know what I'm talking about. Sharing the bristle type, what to expect from the brush, the density, the handle, the functionality of the brush. Sonia is thorough, was thorough, and still is thorough about her brush collection. And her articles played a crucial role in bridging the gap between the fude community in Japan and their international customers. Because at the time, there wasn't a prominent fude blog or store, or we have these informative posts like, let's say, on Fude Beauty. We didn't have Fude Bobo at the time, right? We didn't have all this information at our disposal. And with Sonia now fulfilling that role, the fude community, the artisans in Kumano, Japan, were grateful for the opportunity to finally share the details about their beautiful tools that they wish they can convey to their international customers, but they simply didn't have the resources to translate their articles because they were all in Japanese. And now to have someone like Sonia, who is just insatiably passionate about fude, and to go out of her way to share everything about her collection every time a brush comes into it, they were grateful for that. Because of Sonia's articles and her effort she poured into her blog, sales naturally increased because customers felt more confident making these purchases. Now they were just more well informed about these tools. But how did this collaboration come into fruition? Well, we fast forward to 2022, where Master Tesshyu was transitioning from being in the workplace to now training a new generation of master artisans. And the Takemori family, who runs Chikuhodo, had always wanted to collaborate with Sonia because she has met them before in her first travels to Japan. And as you know, this happens if you want to collaborate with someone or you have a great project idea. Sometimes the years go by and you don't lay the groundwork for it, but it's still floating around. But finally in 2022, when Master Tesshyu was going to again move from the workplace to training the new generation, the Takemori family decided, okay, I think this is the time really now to lay down the groundwork for this project. Sonia had written in her blog that the Takemori family wanted to gift her the trademark name Tesshyu, and having Master Tesshyu's name on the handles. And I couldn't even imagine how Sonia felt in being offered that honor, right? To have someone like Master Tesshyu's name on your brush handles, I can't wrap my mind around it. When I think about it, I start to crumble. And the trademark name Tesshyu on the handles is to represent Master Tesshyu's and Sonia's relationship, how they came about this collaboration, their interactions, their exchanges, everything about those conversations that poured into this project is represented in the name Tesshyu. And if you're wondering what role Master Tesshyu actually played in the collaboration, Master Tesshyu was overseeing the project because his right-hand man, Master Masao Chioka, has been working with Master Tesshyu for over 20 years at Chikuhodo. So Master Tesshyu was overseeing the project and Master Masao was hands-on in creating these beautiful tools. But I can't even imagine how it's like to have that discerning eye from someone like Master Tesshyu overseeing just an immaculate project take place and having his insight there and just guiding all the components of the brushes. Must have been just an extraordinary experience. And fun fact, Master Masao Chioka has worked on the Ren series, the Ren series, the Zen series, and recently the new Kiwami set, which still haunts me in my dreams. My gosh, I wish if I had all the money in the world, all the sets that I mentioned would be mine. And all under the supervision of Master Tesshyu. Of course, we need Master Tesshyu's input on all these beautiful projects. But the name Voyage, however, was created by a Japanese calligrapher by the name of Yuta Ichikawa, who worked with Chikuhodo before. So Yuta-san was very much familiar with the Takemori family, and this was a great opportunity now for Sonia to explain perhaps or help Yuta-san arrive at a kanji symbol that represented Master Tesshyu's and Sonia's collaboration. And that's where Yuta-san came up with the symbol. It says here on Sonia's blog, Tesshyu in kanji has the word ship, which ties to voyage, which ties to my journey, Sonia writes. Yuta-san loved how meaningful the word voyage felt in this situation, and I can't think of a better way to display the inner workings of this collaboration. Is quite extraordinary how it came to be and everything that led to this set. That's why I think it's just incredibly special and quite frankly cannot be put into words how I think this set is truly a treasure in my eyes. So that is just how this brush set came to be. We haven't even come to the components, right? The brush, the box, the paper, the Paulownia wood. Oh my goodness. The handles are made out of mulberry wood, which is quite a luxurious wood in Japan. But interesting fact, mulberry wood is also used to craft Go bowls in the Go chessboard game, I believe, which happens to be Master Tesshyu's favorite hobby. So of course Sonia had to use mulberry wood, but the characteristics of this wood is quite unique where it might start off at a beige yellow tone of color, but it could evolve into a richer, darker golden hue. And depending on which handles you receive, they might start out at that beige yellow and then move into the golden, darker golden, or they might already start at the darker golden shade. So it really varies depending on which handles you receive. So don't fret if they have variances of color. That's just the natural occurrence of the wood. And mulberry wood is also, as it says here, resistant to decay with good insect resistance and weathering properties, but it is more of a lightweight wood. If you like heavier feeling brushes, mulberry wood might not be your pick, but I personally love a lightweight tool. I just feel that makes for easier maneuvering. I couldn't find details about the ferrule. I'm sure Sonia has written about it somewhere, but this is like a bronzed copper ferrule, which I think just pairs beautifully with the mulberry wood. And I'm happy that it's not shiny. This more brushed finish with the metal, I think just adds a beautiful contrast to the overall design. The microfiber towel, cotton on one side, microfiber on the other, and the cotton side showcases Yuta-san's calligraphy and the sakura flowers as well as Mount Fuji, which happens to be Master Tesshyu's favorite Japanese landmark, so we had to have it on the towel as well. And this towel is actually unique because it is made in Japan. Usually with brush towels like these, although the company might be Japanese, they might outsource the manufacturing to China or Vietnam. Sonia wanted to keep everything thing in Japan. So she luckily found a company that was able to partake in this project, and we have the cutest looking brush microfiber towel that you have ever seen. And in addition to the kanji symbols here by Yutaro-san, Master Tesshyu's grandson, came up with the kanji symbols for the individual brushes, and we'll get there in a minute. And although the brushes were wrapped individually with plastic, Sonia wanted to use another material to wrap the brushes for better protection during transit, and she chose Tengui paper, which is more of a sustainable fabric where you could reuse this fabric for whatever you like. It's actually quite soft, and you could reuse this to wrap brushes, or maybe use it to add padding to your makeup bag if you wanted to lessen the rattling in there. I'm sure we could Google more uses with Tengui, but if you are familiar with this material, please sound off below. And the Paulownia box. Usually Paulownia boxes are crafted horizontally, but if you're familiar with Sonia releases, she usually has them made vertically for easier storing, and actually crafting them vertically versus horizontally poses more of a challenge. So these are beautifully crafted, and actually for this specific project, Sonia found a company that has a long history of 50 years, 50, in crafting these types of boxes. So to have the opportunity to work with this particular company was incredible. And some fun facts about Paulownia wood: it's light and easy to carry, maintains the humidity at a constant level by absorption and desorption of moisture, which is important when it comes to brush storage. It is also heat resistant. Paulownia wood has a non-heat conductive structure and hardly cracks when heated. It naturally has an insect repelling property and naturally resistant to decay. So based on those characteristics, Paulownia wood is an exceptional material to store your brushes in, especially if you want to store them in drawers or you want to take them along for the ride. It is quite sturdy, not as sturdy as walnut wood, which is the wood used to create Sonia's larger brush displays, but I think this is beautiful, especially because you have the Mount Fuji symbol lasered here on the box, and on the bottom part of the box you have Yuta-san's calligraphy here with Voyage, Sonia G by Tesshyu on the bottom. Again, this is an exceptional collaboration. I think one of the best this year, and I understand it might not be huge to anyone that's outside the fude world, but if you are a fude collector and are well versed with several of the Kumano brands for brushes, and you know of Master Tesshyu and his work in Chikuhodo. Again, Sonia has all the details about Chikuhodo's history and Master Tesshyu if you want to read up on those details, which I would highly recommend just so you have context on how special this brush set is. Now we're getting into the actual brushes, which I'm sure you were waiting for, but you probably saw that there were timestamps here. So if you just wanted to head over to the brush clips first and then come back to the history of the brush set, that's fine. That's why I put them there. And as I mentioned before when showing the microfiber towel, Yutaro-san, Master Tesshyu's grandson, was the one who came up with the names for the individual brushes. And as you saw on one side of the brush handle, you can see the kanji symbol for the individual brushes is on there with a golden ink using the makie technique. So it is quite beautiful in contrast to the color of the mulberry wood. The first brush we have is Sora, translated as universal, is a tapered face brush with medium density, a mix of gray squirrel and psycho-ho goat bristles. And Sonia writes that this brush already exists in Chikuhodo's collection, specifically the G16, but that is all made with goat hair as opposed to Sora being made with both gray squirrel and goat hair. The reason why Sonia writes this specific version of it is here in this set is because the G16 is one of my most used Chikuhodo brushes ever. And when I was starting to dive into Chikuhodo and browsing through the different lines within the brand and I encountered G16, I immediately labeled it as the Taj Mahal brush because that's exactly what the brush head looks like. And I thought it was incredibly unique with that sharp taper. It has such such beautiful fluidity to it because of that construction. And of course, we'll see it in action when getting into the demos. But Sonia explains further that it is a finishing brush that provided a more lightweight application of powder compared to the G16 and offers a little bit more control than a brush with a wide, round, flat, floppy surface. And this is why Sonia wrote that this brush was so meaningful in this set. It is an ode to the G16 and matches this request very nicely, for sure. What an exceptionally constructed brush. Everything, look at this. Definitely, again, Taj Mahal vibes. And the mixture of Psycho and Gray Squirrel, again, offers that functionality and control while feeling soft. Because I do know that if this was all made with Gray Squirrel, depending on how many bristles that will be in this brush, well, first off, it will be more expensive. But also, it might not have the same feedback and strength as it would when made with goat hair. And I wanted to just start the footage showing how I use Sora in applying my makeup today. I started off with my Dior stick and the Star Filter in 3N as my base, and I had to use Sora with my Prada Beauty Setting Powder. You see how great the pickup is, but despite the brush's head size and because of that crazy taper, I was able to successfully apply powder here under my eyes, and you see the tip of the brush just floats along my lower lash line successfully and places powder perfectly there. But of course, I had to bring it around for a ride on the rest of my face. It's exceptional for loose powder application, as I would assume, since it performed beautifully well when applying my Prada setting powder, which is a pressed powder. And I could only imagine how successful it will be with my Dior pressed powder and others. But because of the presence of Psycho goat hair, you're still going to have a little bit of that polishing quality to your setting. If you just wanted to use Sora for your finale round when everything has been applied and you just whip this around to ensure everything is well blended and incorporated, for sure. But you know I have to try Sora with bronzer. Okay, and I had to hop into YSL's bronzer because it is a nice soft powder, which will make pickup quite easy. And because of this slant here, the edge of the brush, it fits beautifully here into the hollows, right? Virtually foolproof for bronzer application. And the brush is not so large that it won't diffuse outside that zone you want your bronzer to stay in, because I'm thinking jumbo bronzer, maybe Face Pro from Sonia's collection. If you prefer to use a larger brush anyway for bronzer, fine. But Sora, because it has just great splay, right? Because you saw on the demo when I pressed the brush against my skin how it spreads. So it has that flexibility and softness, but it also has control as well, which I think makes it an exceptional tool. And then I had to go in with my YSL Make Me Blush blush single in Peachy Nude, and I'm sure you could already expect that this application would just be flawless because of the brush head size. It enveloped my cheek in one go. I plopped the color down and just whipped it around to diffuse it further and to make sure that there were no harsh edges left behind. And you can see from the close-ups how beautifully smooth my makeup looks, and this is to no surprise, right? Because I'm sure if it's your first time here, this will be your first Sonia video from me. Hi. But if you are familiar with my food date videos and you know how when I ever do demos, I try to always capture the close-up so you can see the texture of my skin. The makeup looks lightweight. There's no muddiness left behind. There's no heaviness. I think that's a testament to this tool's construction and craftsmanship and the perfect ratio of Gray Squirrel to Psycho goat hair, that right where it needs to be to offer that softness but a little bit of firmness as well. I think that's important to have best of both worlds, if you will, especially if you wear lots of powder products anyway, right? Because there are some of you that don't even touch liquid and creams, and I understand that completely. To have a brush like this that can cover several face tasks, from setting your foundation all the way through cheek product application. I'm talking bronzer, contour, albeit it will be quite large for contouring. Maybe the smaller brush, specifically Omoi for imagination, we'll get there in a minute, will be a better choice for more precise powder contouring application. But this, I love this brush. I just love how it looks. Aesthetically, there's something oddly satisfying to it. I think it's the point. It's a Taj Mahal brush. What can I say? Next, we have Omoi for Imagination. It says here is a detail brush with a medium density and bundled only with gray squirrel bristles. It has a pinched ferrule. It's tiny, but once washed, it fluffs and its surface will widen. And hopefully you were able to see how the brush looked when I first took it out of the package versus how it looks now. For instance, Sora was in tight, and you see how important it is to wash your brushes before using them, because that's how you get the full effect of the tool. But back to the Omoi, which immediately reminded me of Mini Cheek. This is Sonia's Mini Cheek brush from her Sky Face set, and this is the Omoi brush from the Voyage set. You can see the Omoi has a little more splay, and I wanted to use this brush, of course, under the eyes because, yes, a little more precise for under eye powder application if you so choose to use a smaller brush for that task. I also wanted to use it to apply blush. Now, my apologies, I did not capture footage using Omoi with bronzer because if you wanted a more precise application of color into the hollows, even though it is quite concentrated there on the first plop down, because of how the brush splays and moves, it can easily diffuse that application to spread out just a tiny bit more. And the Omoi brush for blush, because I'm sure you saw it and you saw Sonia's photos on her blog where she had the Omoi sweeping the Suku blush powder there, and you might have thought, well, I'm like, that's a little small for blush, but we'll see what happens. I used the same Peachy Nude from YSL, and again, because of how the brush splays out and the pinched ferrule design, because it has that flat side, it easily maneuvers the powder around successfully around my cheeks, right? Now, will it take maybe 2-3 seconds more than Sora? For sure, because Sora's a larger brush. It's going to envelop your cheek area quickly. It's just plop, the blush is there. But maybe for more precise work, maybe if I wanted to apply Baby Doll on another occasion, right? And I just needed a smaller region for that purpose, and I could use Omoi for that task. And I wouldn't be opposed to using Omoi for polishing either, right? Especially if you are only one to finish your application on the cheek area. You could take this around for a ride for that finishing step. But I did use Omoi with my Hindash highlighter. And why I think this highlighter is exceptional, because even though it's gelée baked, it actually has great pickup. And this is an all great squirrel brush, and a lot got grabbed from the pan and plopped on my cheekbones, and boy oh boy was there a lot of highlighter there. But again, not only did I manage to successfully blend that highlighter on my cheekbones, but I finished everything off by whipping around Sora on my cheeks as well, and the highlighter, the blush, the bronzer all look incredibly smooth. And again, you can see the close-ups that how everything is just well incorporated. There are no harsh lines, and nothing looks heavy or dull on my cheeks. An exceptional tool. And now moving on to the last brush in this collection, the Nagare for Movement, is a densely packed brush bundled with gray squirrel bristles. It is more movement in comparison to a pencil brush, but more firm, dense, and precise in comparison to a typically created crease brush. This design allows for the brush to work in the crease area, but it is also a lay down brush. Now, I believe Sonia. I fully trust Sonia, and of course I wanted to put Nagare to the test by using YSL's Over Brun, because I suspected, since this brush was made out of all gray squirrel, that a softer powder texture would be an ideal match. And so I went in with that neutral saddle shade through my crease, and as Sonia described, even though it might appear as a pencil brush at first look, it has great movement and flexibility on the eyelids, so I was able to diffuse the color well through my crease. Although it will, compare to a fluffier crease brush, won't appear as diffused and hazed out, right? It's going to have more of a tighter application, more precise through the crease, and maybe that is your preference, especially if you have smaller eyes, smaller hooded lids. That brush will fit successfully into that crease and run the color well through it. I decided to smoke it out, of course, and dipped into the plum brown metallic shade. Because of the round ferrule, you could use one side of the brush to apply color on the outer lid first, and then use the tip to diffuse the edges and move them out just how much you need to create that smoke effect on the outer lid. I thought I was successful in that, and I also used the tip of the brush to place that color down under my lash line, like a quarter in, as a trade-off, right? Because it's more of a pencil construction, it might not have more of that blown out effect like you would get using a fluffier crease brush, but I would have to reach for a different brush to place color on my lower lash line, where I could just keep using the Nagare and pull it here right from outer corner to the lower lash line. And then I picked up the Sparkly Arcly shade with one side of Nagare, and it was successful in placing color on my lid. And I don't consider my eyes to be huge, but I think I have quite a bit of lid space, and the brush was successful in laying down color on my lid in a wide fashion, right? Sure, it's not going to be as precise as one of Sonia's shader brushes, her workers, right, of a huge variety of them, but I think this is great because, and why I picked the YSL quad, for softer textures and for you to just achieve a softer wash of color on the lids for that effect. And then I use the brush to apply the same shadow on my inner corner. Now, this is where you might have to reach for a smaller brush if you want a more precise application on the inner corner, which I understand. I was still able to apply the color on my inner corner, but it was a little more blown out. It's not going to be as tight as it would if you use a much smaller pencil brush. But the fact that I achieved this entire eye look using one brush, if you're one who usually uses 5 brushes for an entire eye look, it's a fun project to do for yourself. It's a fun experiment. And on the other side, I decided to take that taupe metallic and use Nagare to apply it all over my lid, because I truly wanted to see how successful this brush would be for a one and done lid moment, and that is exactly what Nagare delivered. It just swept across my lid, and I used the tip of the brush to just whip out the edges softly around my crease area, and I decided to apply a little bit of the plum metallic on the outer corner, not in the same fashion as I did with my first eye, but just sweep a little bit of that smoke effect there. And again, because of the brush's construction and its design, it was virtually effortless to achieve that. I just kind of if I were to substitute a sound for the action, that's what happened on my eyes. And then I took the brush along the lower lash line with that taupe metallic, and then I took the Sparkly Arcly shade with the brush inner corner. Again, you're not going to be successful with a more diffuse haze out effect through the crease if you have larger eyes. Not great to soften and diffuse eyeliner for more precise work on the inner corner. This is more of a one and done brush for the entire eye, but a lot softer and more diffused, right? In overall finish for the eye look. So those are what I think your expectations should be if you decide to use this brush for one and done eye looks, right? If you're accustomed, as I mentioned before, in using several brushes at once, or you want to create more elaborate eye looks, then you will need more than one tool. But this, listen, you saw the close-ups, okay? And this is why I adore the YSL quads, but insanely simple to achieve. The effect is there. I adore how my makeup came out. I look sophisticated and elegant, okay? And those are all the demos that I have for this video. Of course, I would love to share more. I'll probably, well, most definitely will film a short using the Sonia G by Tesshyu Voyage set, but I just had to come on here. Sonia did not ask me to do this video, right? You know how I'm always on here the minute the Sonia G arrives, okay? I just had to share some insight about this collaboration because it is just so special. I can't think of another word to express how I feel about this set, and I am so happy for Sonia. I just think it's a full circle moment from how she started, just sharing her thoughts and her enthusiasm about Fude and where it led, how then she was able to travel to Japan and finally meet the individuals responsible for why she wrote these articles in the first place, right? Is fantastic. And I think one of the best releases of the year, and it only was in January that this released. I know that is a premature statement. That doesn't mean that they won't be other extraordinary releases, collaborations for the rest of the year, but this is definitely at the top. Okay, so much so that I will probably mention this in some capacity in my end of year faves. Yes, I'm already thinking about 2026. But I wanted to quickly, hold on, because I did say in my, what was it? Was it January faves? I can't recall. Comparing to, for the life of me, I cannot locate Wayne's larger artist collection brush. It's laughing at me because I've been searching for it for the last 10 minutes and it's nowhere to be found. But I do have his artist edit face brush, and I just wanted to quickly compare it to Sora, right? So you can see the not only difference in size, because keep in mind the artist face brush from the original artist series will have the same brush head as this, except this is undyed Psycho goat hair, and the face brush from the artist collection is a mixture like what's found in Sora of gray squirrel and Psycho goat. But you can see how the Sora brush is larger and with a more distinct point, whereas the Wayne brush from the artist edit collection is what Sonia had described in her Sora blog post, where are the differences that Sonia outlined, where typically you'll have more of like a round flat surface which feels a little more fluffy, but with Sora you have a little bit of both, right? That point here at the very tip of the brush, but also beautiful splay at the same time. And if you're wondering, well, Sonia has some pointed brushes in her collection. This is from her Kakishibu Kiyaki face set, specifically the TF3. It's like a mini Taj Mahal brush, but this is a lot more stiff and it doesn't have the same amount of splay as you see here from Sora. So those are the distinct differences, because if you saw this brush and you thought about TF3, TF3 is wonderful, right? As I demonstrated in my face set video, where you could take it here under the eye, you could take it here with bronzer for a blush and highlight as well. The Sora brush has a larger contact with surface area, right? And because a little more versatile in that respect. But that is it, family. Hopefully you enjoyed this video as much as I did preparing for it and filming it. And if you like this video, please consider liking it. It does help me tremendously as it lets YouTube know that I'm worth watching. And if you want to see more videos like these, consider subscribing, because this will not be the end. It is only January and I'm sure Sonia G has more projects up her sleeves. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you are alerted immediately of when those uploads drop. Again, a huge thank you to Sonia and Beautylish for the gift. A huge thank you to everyone for watching my brush videos and continuing to do so. I will see you all in those comments, and I will see you on here next time.